There's so many good techniques that you have in the book. If somebody is reading it and they start feeling kind of overwhelmed, like, I don't know how to do all of these, what one thing would you recommend that they do first out of all the strategies that you've got mapped out there?
Well, thank you. And there are different strategies, and my hope is that you try one. It's like eating something you can swallow and say that's pretty neat, and then when you master it, you can try something else. One of the things is called the AEU technique, and a lot of people think, oh, there's not a fraternity or a sorority or something. No, AEU stands for apologize, empathize, uncover. And why it's one of my favorite techniques is because most people are defenseless against an unsolicited apology. In fact, one of the sad things about life is I'm guessing there are hundreds of millions of people in the world who will never receive an apology in their lifetime. I mean, it's sad, but it's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you offer an apology, it immediately is confusing to the other person, but they still have their guard up because they think you're going to do a manipulation. And then when you empathize with what's going on, it's like, no, I think the apology was sincere. And then when you uncover something deeper, it's like draining an abscess of anger at you. So what would that look like? So let's say if you're in business and let's say you bullied some other people, or let's say people are acting up. What you say to them is, when you have a moment, I'd like to apologize to you for something. And it's not going to get us into trouble. It's not a legal thing where, we're going to go bankrupt or the FBI is going to come in. But I just became clear about something. And they're immediately going to say, what's that about? And what I suggest is, you don't tell them right then. You keep them intrigued because when you do speak to them, they're going to be all ears and all eyes. And so let's say it's someone who's been acting up and is obnoxious and they're crazy making that way. And so the apology might be something like this. I want to apologize to you for getting on your case about how you act obnoxiously, and I want to apologize for sometimes being overly sympathetic to the other side and sometimes falling into bad-mouthing you. I want to apologize to you for that. And they're going to go, whoa, well, that's honest. And the empathy is to say, also, I put myself in your shoes. And what I realized is, I don't know that you're acting the way you do really to be mean. I think you're acting the way you do because you're incredibly frustrated and you don't know what else to do. And it's been going on. And so your fuse has gotten shorter and shorter. And because I don't sense that inherently you're an evil person. I think what it is you have a short fuse because you're so frustrated. Might any of that be true? And again, my philosophy in life is identify, stay away from, or stop evil people. But everybody else, including you and I, are just flawed. So assuming the person isn't evil, but they're deeply flawed, hopefully they'll say that. And then the uncover is you go deeper. And here's where you can combine another technique that I think is in the book. It's what I call the FAD diet. I come up with all these acronyms. And FAD stands for frustrated, angry, disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they're saying, yeah, I am frustrated. And then you may want to drill down and say, what have you been most frustrated about? That really, you're just pulling your hair out. And you get them to talk about it. And then you combine some techniques from Just Listen. And one of the techniques is conversation deepeners. So they tell you what they're most frustrated about, and you focus on emotional words. And if they use a word like horrendous or awful or exasperating, let them say whatever they're saying. And you say more about the exasperating. So what you're doing is you're drawing all the venom out of them. And then when they finish that, you say, if I was you, I wouldn't just be frustrated, I'd be angry. What are you angry about? And you want to do it that way and you don't want to lead with anger, because if you say to someone, you're angry, it sounds like you're scolding them and shaming them. But if you can lead it through from frustration and you get them on board and then you go into anger, they're likely to be willing to talk to you. And anger is the key. You want to get the anger up and out using their words where they're not acting on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, you use some more conversation deeper. Well, what I'm really angry about is such and such and such and such. And then you say, well, say more about that. Or another conversation deepener is when they finish saying what they're angry about, is you go, really? Or you go, And you watch, and instead of being defensive because you're in charge of the conversation without being controlling, you're going to see them get the anger up. But the real game changer is when you say, if I was you, I'd be frustrated and I'd be angry too. But I'm also guessing that you're disappointed. And I don't know if it's in the company, in other people, in me, in yourself, but what might you be disappointed about? And there's something about the word disappointment that is probably more powerful than frustration or anger. That's why, actually some people I mentor and coach, they've actually used this with their partner. And one, who was a woman who was the main provider in the family, and a husband who, loves her, and she can be a little bit difficult, but, he can be a little bit lazy, and she wishes he would do more. And so what she said to him, because often what happens is he picks up, she's frustrated, maybe a little angry. But what she tried with him, she said, I'm not angry at you. And she said it perfectly. And she had this look on her face. So it was, she said, I'm disappointed. But she had a look on her face that was filled with hurt, not anger. Which is different than I'm disappointed. Well, then you're not disappointed, you're angry. But it's like cutting diamond. She said, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. And she said, it flipped him around. He's just been cooperating, he's been stepping up. Because all he thought she was just frustrated and angry. And then in his mind, he'd say to himself, oh, well, you may make a lot of money, but you're really difficult. So it would be one of these vicious cycles that went nowhere. So I think the AEU, and then add to it the fad diet, I think hopefully listeners can get something from that.